When I burned out 18 months ago, I was really unprepared for how familiar the experience would feel because I'd gone through something prior that I would have assumed would be categorically different, but was in felt sensation pretty much identical. To frame this up, I want to rewind 20 years before I burned out of my career to me as a 15-year-old on the streets of Paris, handing out invitations to Parisians to come to a Bible study. This scene makes me crack up now, picturing me like with my pimples and Roxy t-shirt, speaking horrible French, trying to convince Parisians of anything. But I was doing that because I really believed I was working towards a worthwhile goal, that I was helping to save people from eternal damnation, which if there's any form of impact, like that is pretty high up there. And when I lost that belief system a few years after that, it was catastrophic on multiple levels, not the least of which was that my sense of identity and meaning and purpose was so wrapped up in this ideology that I believed. And when that belief system fell apart a few years later, it was pretty catastrophic. It was a loss of a sense of purpose, of meaning, of just the way the world works, but also of a sense of self, because my own sense of self was largely built on that ideology. And in the years that followed, I ended up building a secular, impactful career. So I studied international studies. I went to Kenya to work on research. I ended up really focusing on the impact measurement side of things, with my theory being that not all efforts that are intended to have a positive impact actually do. So I might as well research this and try to understand how we can do better. And I moved through global development for a while. I spent some time in kind of the CSR space, and then I ended my career in impact investing. But then 18 months ago, something broke in me. And in the months after I had to leave my job, I was so startled to see how much what I was experiencing mirrored that loss of faith 15 years prior. And it was because I wasn't just losing my career, I was losing my identity, my sense of self, a lot of how I constructed my own sense of worth, predominantly, I think, through kind of a capitalist ideology. As somebody who was productive, who had worked their way up through a meritocracy, all these different things, and as somebody who was efforting towards a, impactful, not purely extractive ends, supposedly. But one of the things that was common among both of these as well is this sense that I had been moving towards something, towards some goal that ended up being a farce or a fantasy, and that I had sacrificed a lot along the way, and that end result was probably not even real. So the point is that not that I kept picking bad ideologies. This actually really isn't about the specific values of the ideologies. The thing that I started to see was that there was a structure underneath each of these ideologies that was the same. And I think this structure is common in pretty much any ideology, including ones that are opposite. The clearest way I can try to explain this is that in these systems, everything in the present, everything that currently is, becomes an instrument towards a goal or an end. And that end might be salvation, it might be systems change, it might be make America healthy. I don't know, it might be any number of things. But that the present and the self and relationships with others and your energy goes towards trying to achieve that end. It honestly, I think, even shows up in social media. The end might be just to get validation. The content can flip and change, but the shape of how we are structured and moving through the world seems to be staying the same. And so I realized maybe the problem was less what I believed and more how I was moving through reality. And so when I burned out, though, looking back, what I actually think happened is that my ability to work towards a goal or an end and sacrifice the present to do that severed. I could not do that anymore. I became completely unable to motivate myself through pressure or through efforting. And that really was one of the most disorienting things I experienced, because I thought that my sense of worth and this kind of purpose was to constantly be moving towards something, I think. But this is also what has led to the experiment that I am trying now. Because, I'll be honest that burning out of my career is a little bit categorically different than leaving a religion. And in theory, when I left evangelicalism, it felt more important because I was concerned that I was going to end up in hell. I feared that for a while. But burning out a career is more urgent because I do actually need to find a way to exchange for resources once again. And I'm skeptical that I can return to my former career path or really that any normal job is what I want, because I think of most modern corporations as kind of little mini churches that have an ends that they are trying to motivate you to work towards. So I am trying to figure out how to build a career on my own 2 feet. But as I've been doing that, I've realized that how I relate to myself, how I relate to other people that I would in theory exchange with, and how I relate to exchange and energy flow and money flow itself are all things that I had really instrumentalized, which is part of what I'm trying to dismantle. So I am trying an experiment where I focus less on trying to architect my way to a goal like I may have in the past, like my business degree more taught me how to do, and instead try to rebuild the kind of relationships that I want to feel to myself and my own effort and labor, to other people, and to energy or money or exchange itself. With the idea being that if I can create these kind of integral relationships that I want, they are more likely to at least open the possibility to exchange in a way that feels integral. I'm making a video part of Beely because this is the kind of labor and effort that I actually want to do. That's surprising me. I really started to look a lot at like how I move through the world, where things feel effortful versus more playful and fun and exploratory. And a lot of what I want to do is to create and to express. So I'm committing to trying for 3 months to document my experience in trying to find this kind of relationship with my career. And this experiment has been messy and confusing, and I don't know what's happening, and I want to try to show that. I admittedly have so much content from the past that I think shows how messy it is really well. But it's only now kind of at this point that I can put together content with a level of cohesion because my energy is only reforming now. But I'm doing this for myself, and I also hope to offer an inside look into what this experiment looks like, because I think a lot of people are rethinking what work and labor and effort look like. And I also want to show it because I think the most transformative thing that has happened in the past year, arguably one of the most transformative things, if not the most transformative thing of my life, is my ability to actually be present in my life. I also want to show what it looks like in process. I do not know if I'm going to quote succeed at this. That's not really the point. The point is like, what happens if I try? And so I don't know if I will arrive anywhere or what that will look like. I have no idea where exactly this is headed. But that's my experience, to try to document it. I don't have video editing skills. I'm learning as I go. And so what I'm able to get out into the world right now versus what is actually happening behind the scenes, there is a massive chasm there. But I'm trying, and that's really all I can do. I'm trying to offer my experience as honestly as I can. Not to say that you should do this too. Honestly, the biggest reason I'm doing this is because burnout like foreclosed other options. This feels like the option that is available to me where I am willing to apply my effort. And if I try to do something else, I'm not able or willing to apply effort, whichever way you want to look at it. So I'm offering it out to the world for you to decide what's useful in it for you. I think that there is no singular way or path to deal with our current state of the world. I think that each of us has the wisdom within ourselves. But I will say that shifting away from my compulsion to control, which still comes up so much, but is an ongoing process, and increasing my ability to tolerate uncertainty has been the most transformative thing in being able to be present in my own life and in my relationships with more integrity than when I was trying to force my vision of the future into existence. So yeah, I don't know where this goes, but I'm trying to share it with you anyway, and that's the whole point. Okay, I love you.